Hello, how are you? I'm Matthew, host of Truth from the Booth. Thanks for making space for me and Shane Reid today on Folked Up Radio. Shane is a spokesperson for Tent City for Change, St. John's. Nearly 4.5 months have passed since we last spoke in early April right here on Truth from the Booth. So I'm curious, what has changed for Shane? Who has stood beside him when things got difficult? And perhaps Shane will share some insight on how one controls anxiety knowing that housing can disappear again. The Maritimes have had a great stretch of warm weather recently, but when summer starts to give way to September, the calendar changes for everyone. But for people living outside, fall means something very different. It means watching the temperature, watching the tents, watching where people are sleeping, and asking the question no one should have to ask in Newfoundland in 2026. Where am I going to be when winter arrives? In St. John's, the conversation is getting louder. Advocates calling for stronger tenant protections, faster action on poverty reduction, and new ideas like green zones that could provide safe, legal accommodation with services and support. The government says Newfoundland and Labrador is developing a 10-year poverty reduction strategy with the goal of having the lowest poverty rate in Canada by 2036. The province is gathering public feedback through an online survey and written submissions until the end of this month. We'll get Shane's reaction to that. Let's talk about the space between promises and lived reality. We'll get Shane's thoughts on Horizons at 106 and the fate of the 75 residents at the end of the year. And just last week, Nova Scotia's Court of Appeal recognized a tent as accommodation for purposes of provincial income assistance, a game changer for those unhoused on assistance. We'll discuss that with Shane. So, for Shane, what does dignity look like? Where does he need to be to thrive? And why keep telling the story? Because sometimes awareness is the first place change begins. My informative and uninterrupted conversation with Shane Reid of Tent City for Change, St. John's is next on FokedUpRadio.com. I was built to keep things out, to divide, to protect, to mark a boundary. I've surrounded construction sites, ball fields, and places where people said, this needs to be secured. But when they brought me here, they placed me around an encampment, and I need to tell you what I see. I see people waking up every morning behind steel wires, not because they committed a crime, but because they have nowhere else to go. A sleeping bag becomes a bedroom, a tent becomes a home, a backpack becomes a closet, a shopping cart becomes a lifeline. I hear conversations that never make it into council chambers. I hear people asking, did anyone find housing today? I hear, are you warm enough? I hear strangers sharing food, checking on neighbors, and watching out for each other when the rest of the world walks by. I hear children's names. I hear stories of jobs lost, families separated, health struggles, rising rents, and people trying to survive another night. Politicians, you need to understand something. I'm a fence. I'm not a solution. When you put me around a person experiencing homelessness, I don't create safety. I create a message. The message is, you are something to contain. But the people I surround are not hazards. They're human beings. You ask me what I've witnessed? I've witnessed resilience. I've witnessed dignity. I've witnessed people helping people in a place the world often ignores. If you want to use me around a garden, a playground, a construction site, places where barriers make sense. But don't use me to separate yourselves from a crisis you have the power to address. Because every night I stand here, I am reminded, the real barrier isn't the fence. It's the distance between compassion and action. We are recording this on a gorgeous Saturday night here in the Halifax Regional Municipality, and we are going across some water, and we're going to the Rock. We're going to Newfoundland, and we are welcoming back to the show Shane Reid. Shane, how are you?
I'm doing good, and how about yourself, my man?
I'm okay. I like to start off with let's give people a sense of what the weather is like. We've had a pretty nice stretch of warm weather here in Nova Scotia. And Shane is on the show because he has lived experience being outside. So can you just tell the audience right off the start, Shane, what it was like for you, what it is like for those right now in St. John's, Newfoundland, who have no escape from the elements, no matter the season?
Well, as you can imagine, I mean, anytime you face adversity, it's a challenge. And I mean, that's under the best possible conditions. When you're talking about anybody that's unhoused, regardless of province or country, really, the struggles are the same, and they continue to get systemically worse. As long as, political policy ensures that structures such as, these shelters and stuff like that, which are really just costing millions and millions of dollars, when there are different strategies that could be put in play that could significantly change the outcome of this crisis. And it is what it is. And it's a crisis on all levels, financially, right down to food insecurities. And I mean, all of these things apply. And I mean, if you're not investing in people the way you should, I mean, the downfall is imminent. And this slippery slope, when you continue to put things into play that you don't believe in, and people lose trust in you. And when it comes down to it, trust is everything, especially with the people we put in the power, politically wise. And so far, I hear a lot of poverty strategies that just they're not put into effect in real time, and it's affecting people to the point where they have no other options. The jails are full. People are still dying in the streets and stuff like that. People's attitudes towards the local government and their living conditions, is deplorable.
Yeah, I want to give you a chance to talk about the policies and the regulations that are out there, not happening nearly fast enough. But the first part of this conversation, and listen, the reason I do this talk radio program, I've always loved to hear stories from people. And what you just said, the opening of this show, had my heart racing, because it's a story that I hear over and over again, and it's just so baffling and disheartening to know that we have the ability to fix this. Seriously, we just public housing for everyone. Let's get everyone inside and see where everyone goes from there. So I'm going to get your thoughts on the politics in a moment, but in the intro to the show, I mentioned that you were on this show in early April, so it's been 4.5 months. So let's start on a more personal note, Shane, and you can give us as much or as little as you want. But I'm just curious, what has changed for you personally since we last spoke?
Well, what's changed for me personally, I mean, we've done more events with Tent City for Change, which is a collective of residents that are living outside and in shelters under slumlords and forced conditions, and of course, safely and unsafely housed. My conditions haven't really got better. I mean, I'm still fighting slumlord conditions. I'm still out there doing my advocacy work, and I see the heartbreak in people's eyes every day. So, I mean, coming from a fairly empathetic person, it hurts to see the despair out there. But I mean, there is that little candle of hope within community groups, and like these picnics and stuff that we do are based on building those community ties, and like the events are getting bigger and bigger. So like hope is alive out there, and as long as people like ourselves are raising awareness to these issues. One of the other things that we're doing is we're coordinating with other outreach groups, like Thrive and associations like that, and Acorn and stuff, Food First NL. In order to, build that community relation, just not within the general public, but within the outreach groups as well. So, I mean, that's one of the main things that I've been doing. And I mean, there's days, like I said, that I watch my feet bleed still, but I mean, it's all worth it, because more and more people are attending. And within relation to this last event, it's in honor of a member of Tent City, Mr. Chris Forsey, was a dear friend and a dear benefactor to Tent City for Change. And like one of his main things was treating people fairly, and not just treating people fairly because we can, because we should. To the core of it, everybody should want to treat people as they would want to be treated, and that includes with fair housing. Absolutely. And I mean, one of the things as well that I've been working on are modular grants, and the availability of them, and not getting tied up within you know, policies and stuff to the point where nobody gets a fair shot at anything except for if you're one of the elites. If you already have land put aside and stuff like that. Because, I mean, if you talk in terms of innovation, those without quite often are the most innovative, because they, you know, it's a necessity of their daily life. And that's one of the things I've been working towards each and every day, is hoping that people realize their own potential, and their own potential for change lies within, you know, everybody standing together.
Let's put a button on the community events. You say the numbers are growing, which is wonderful. What are you hoping people take away? What's the message? Why do you think the numbers are growing?
Because things that they're realizing, and one of the things that I do say a lot of times when I do speak at these events, is that people only want to be treated as people. So you can look to the left, you can look to the right, you can look all around you. Nobody is truly that different. Our needs are basically the same. And it's not just that. Like, if we can always support others, why can't we support each other? I mean, yes. And when we struggle, when we struggle and we choose to, you know, lay hands on a heavy object, just so to say, and they saw that load and that burden much, much lighter. And people are happy at these events. I mean, even though there's tones and stuff like that to the issues and the messages, they're genuinely happy when you walk away. And I firmly believe, that the reason that they are happiest when you walk away is because they're coming together as a community. They're getting to enjoy conversations, food, music, and, you know, it's just a costume and everything to come in. And really, what better way to show a community's heart? I mean, the fact that it's growing, it shows me that community's heart is growing, especially towards the awareness and changing these issues.
You have one more community event coming up this Saturday, the 22nd, yes?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Well, I hope it's a great turnout. I hope the weather is fantastic. Let's get back to you just a little bit. What, in the last 4.5 months, what are some of the challenges that you still face, maybe on a daily basis or monthly basis, Shane?
Oh, absolutely. Well, on a daily basis, I mean, my struggles are pretty much the same. I get up, I put my shoes on my feet, and, you know, I have had cancer removal in my left heel a number of years ago. So, I mean, right out the gate, I'm in pain. But, you know, I kind of got to shrug that off, because you still got to live your life. And then I get up, and I mean, you know, my necessities are always a struggle. I mean, paying bills towards the thing, you know, the cost of food. Not only that, but I mean, just like social supports. But I mean, because just because I'm doing outreach myself, doesn't mean that I don't have to reach out as well. Even what I'd consider middle range income when it comes to yearly total. So, I mean, I'm not living comfortably at all. and stringing resources within the outreach community. I mean, that applies to me as well, because like even the donations and stuff that come into a lot of the outreach groups that we associate with and I associate with, their resources are dwindling in. So I mean, that shows the strain on their level. Let alone trying to acquire stuff for myself. So yeah, no, it's a struggle. It's definitely a struggle.
So give us a scenario that helps you thrive in St. John's, Newfoundland. Where does Shane Reid need to be in order to thrive?
Well, ideally, because in my mind, to thrive is to blossom and bloom and grow, as does anything in nature. I mean, I hope people are no different. I mean, I hope we're all a part of nature and we all get that opportunity to blossom and grow. So for me to do that, I'd need to be securely housed. For me, ideally, it would be in a modular home that's on an eco-friendly level with like a 3-tier platform. Like I said, I've got a book full of designs for such A-frame, low-cost homes and stuff like that in my notebooks and binders. But for me, it would be ideal for communities to look around and see that my community is growing, that, you know, this housing crisis and the scars that it has caused and continues to cause start to heal. I mean, and fade, because I don't want the next generation of children's children to grow up in an ever worsening scenario. And I mean, I'm a product of my environment. So right now, you know, my potential for growth is limited because of my life situation. And I mean, there are people out there who are much worse off as well. And so my heart breaks daily for them, because I see it face to face every single day. And let me tell you, it's not for the faint of heart.
Shane, is anxiety, is that something that you have to cope or live with every day? And just the anxiety of losing your home again under any given circumstance. If I'm correct, I believe you already have 10 years of lived experience on the outside, correct?
Absolutely. Anxiety, yes, and not just of those things. Social anxiety. Actually, I have bad social anxiety. It's a small miracle within itself that I'm actually able to do things like this. At its core, one of the main reasons why I can overcome this, and I do overcome this on a daily basis. And believe me, it's hard. I can't lie about that at all. It's like climbing Mount Everest times 10 every day with like the weight of your house on your back, and at any moment the rope could snap and you're plummeting to the bottom yet again. So that's my way of vividly describing my anxiety every day.
Shane, that being said, you are making it your mission to get out of your comfort zone and continue to raise awareness. Why is it so important for you to do that, Shane?
Well, in truth, because without some of the people that have inspired me to do this in my life, that plummeted me from one of those, so they plucked me up from one of those times when I plummeted so far. Mr. 4C, Kerry Neal, multiple others, Laurel Hubbard, and so many people that I've lost along the way. Without that hope from them and people knowing a little bit about my story and my struggles, I hope at the end of the conversation, at least they walk away with a smile and say, well, if this guy can have that much hope and fight this hard, why aren't we? I do believe that one person can make effective change in their time, but it takes others' support as well. I mean, I'm not doing it all this alone. So, like, I'm not no saint who's flying around on some magic wings or some fairy tale. I mean, there's other people that, of course, are the core of it as well. And without them, I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to muster up the strength, the courage, or any of those things. And I mean, there's a bunch more stuff that goes into it too. These people have shown me empathy and change of perspective and so many core values that now I incorporate every day to overcome such struggles. So, and if I can do it, everybody else can too. And I think they might need a little bit more support than I do at times, but it's only because of prior support and continued support that I'm able to do it.
Absolutely, and we are so grateful that you continue to do that. And just a shout out to Tent City for Change, St. John's. Here's a scenario for you, Shane. I am going to be flying into St. John's, Newfoundland. I've never been to the province before, and you're going to pick me up at the airport and you're going to drive me back to St. John's. And as the tour guide, can you describe what I'm going to see? Am I going to see tent encampments? Am I going to visibly see people unhoused on the streets? Can you paint me a picture, Shane Reid, please?
Well, you can see people on the streets, of course, and stuff like that, but actual encampments, no, because of the silly bylaws that are here. And, like, people have to be tucked away in the woods or their encampments are removed. I mean, and this no-fault eviction thing, like Newfoundland is the only other province besides, like, Yukon with such a silly bylaw. No, you won't see the encampments, but you should be able to see green zones and stuff.
Well, let's talk about
the no logical reason for it.
Well, can you expand? Because that was one of the things I wanted to talk about. What is the green zone? Tell us about that, Shane.
Well, the green zone would be a place where the provincial government sets aside a piece of land in which encampments are allowed. And I mean, they could even put aside a piece of such said land for modular homes, which could be built at zero to low cost using all recycled materials. Such initiatives just aren't in play here, but why not? I mean, because like these shelters that are costing billions of dollars to run every single year wouldn't have to exist. You could give people their own homes. Why not?
Oh, absolutely. That again, I just go back to public housing. If you're going to, like, it makes zero sense to me. If you're going to clear a plot of land, why would you then designate it for people in tents? Why would you not build a permanent structure, modular? Like, we have washrooms on wheels. Like the movie industry could help out and probably solve this. Thanks for the update on you personally. I'm glad that you gave us as much as you did. I always appreciate that. I want to talk now in the second part of this, some news that is out there. I'm really looking for your opinion on this. And you've talked about this. I think I can gather that you are frustrated with the government. The government is looking for input for new poverty and reduction strategy. Advocates like yourself want swift implementation of policies and legislation. How frustrating is that for you and others to see the government just continue to kick the tent down the road?
My God, that's a really apt metaphor, actually, and quite disheartening as well, because it is so apt. Within regard to this is the reason why our provinces have not seen positive change within policy, is because none of it is ever put into play, and I don't care what province you're in. It's never put into play when it counts. It's the too little, too late policy. And who does that benefit? Nobody. It doesn't benefit anybody on the bottom of the totem pole. It doesn't benefit anybody quarter of the way up. So, up to half, up to the top. It doesn't benefit anybody. So why is it allowed to continue? Well, that's on their end and ours in a way, because we keep voting these people in. I said once before, what if we all stop paying taxes and stop voting for, say, 6 months or a year, or, whatever the case may be, and our only ultimatum was, well, put your policies into play in real time. And let's see if they do it. I don't know. I don't have any belief in it at all that they would even try, unless it came to affecting their bottom dollar. And that's the problem. Once again, it boils down to the bottom dollar and not the people that these issues are affecting.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I'm just so thankful that people like yourself agree to come on this radio program and just speak the truth. Like, it's so genuine. It's just so genuine and true, and I really appreciate it. I don't know if you are aware of this story here in Nova Scotia. On August 6th, so just a few days ago, the Nova Scotia Court of Appeal ruled that a Halifax man's tent qualifies as a form of accommodation under provincial income assistance law, making him eligible for a higher tier of benefits reserved for people who own or rent their accommodation and meet other criteria having a disability. People can Google the story. It's the story that involves Bradley Lowe, who died on the grounds of Grand Parade Square in December of 2023. I know this because I was there. So I'm curious. Can you tell me what an unhoused individual is getting a month in St. John's, Newfoundland?
An unhoused individual in St. John's right now per month might be getting at most maybe $400 a month to live on.
Okay, 400. Okay.
When you're on the streets, that's despicable. I mean, if you do the math, it's just not enough. I mean, it's just not.
Well, I mean, there are people out there. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just saying, like, $400 a month. There are people out there, and maybe they've earned it, but there are people out there who would drop that going out for supper with friends. Let's not kid ourselves. Just a few more things. It's a Saturday night. I really appreciate this. Sorry, I really didn't mean to cut you off there. But I'm curious, moving on to the last couple of things, and I'm really curious on your thoughts on this. 75 residents at Horizons. The lease is done at the end of this year. Is that correct? And what's happening with those residents as we approach the end of August?
That is happening as well, and I mean, it's still not enough though, because
is that your pager?
Yeah, it was just somebody in need of a little bit of outreach help, actually.
Okay. Well, let's finish this up here, and I'll let you get back to those that definitely need your help.
Absolutely. So back to the Horizon thing. So those people have been shuffled around so much that I believe they deserve some type of compensation for the mental or emotional scars, let alone the financial scars of living at Horizons. And unless they're going to be into permanent housing that is conducive to their own good health. I mean, their good health right across the board, and not just, their housing, because even housing with the provincial government can be precarious at best. I mean, because we still have no fault evictions here. So, it's really not, I think it's just another Band-Aid solution when it comes down to it.
Is there talk in St. John's, Newfoundland in regards to a tenants union? Is that anywhere on the front burner?
Yes, it is. And that is one of the things, actually, that Tent City for Change is within our mission goals, is to create a homelessness union, which would include, key structure points that would ensure housing isn't precarious, food insecurity is, no longer an issue, and as well as being able to get people on low income and stuff like that, the medical aspect of it. A lot of people who are on low income, unfortunately, can't find doctors and all this good stuff. And I know that's a problem pretty much countrywide, is being able to find family doctors, but it's also not a thing that's not unachievable to kill, because we have groups like the Downtown Collaborative of Doctors here in Newfoundland and St. John's. They're basically like an outreach group of doctors with walk-in availability. There needs to be more of that.
Yeah, there definitely needs to be some major changes across the board, and I feel the frustration in your voice and the stories that you've told me, and I've also heard the joy in your voice when you talk about the community event. You have another one happening on Saturday, the 22nd. Let's finish it off, just hype that a little bit more, and if people want to know more about Tent City for Change, St. John's, and maybe make a donation, how can they do that, Shane?
Oh, absolutely. Being in these events always brings me great joy. And even on his phone, I'm sure you can hear the smile on my voice. So basically, our last event is in part in honor for our dear departed friend, Mr. Christopher Forsey. People come out from 1 to 4 at Bannerman Park to enjoy live music and comedy, free barbecue, open mic. Everybody is welcome. It's an opportunity to share food, meet like-minded concerned residents, build relationships, and after all, we're all in it together, and we can end the housing crisis together. So that's basically wrapping that side of it. If anybody would like to donate, they can always go to the Tent City for Change website, which is on Facebook. So, so it's at www.facebook.com/groups.
Shane Reid, I really appreciate you taking time out of your Saturday night for this conversation. Great to hear your voice. Glad that some things are changing. I'm glad that you continue to advocate, and hopefully, the loud voices get through, and just common sense rules, and let's get everyone inside. Public housing for all.
Absolutely, and that affects everybody everywhere.
Appreciate your time. Thank you, Shane. Be safe, be well. And now for something completely different. This year's El Nino is no longer just a possibility. Currently, U.S. climate forecasters put the odds of a very strong El Nino at more than 90%, with a 69% chance that October through December could produce a historic strength event. For Canada, the broad signal for a strong El Nino is generally warmer than normal winter temperatures, although the exact weather can vary significantly from region to region, and that uncertainty matters. Because for people experiencing homelessness, warmer does not necessarily mean safer. Rain, freezing rain, wet snow, wind, rapidly changing temperatures, and repeated freeze-thaw cycles can leave tents, clothing, and sleeping bags soaked, turning a relatively mild night into a serious exposure risk. Research in Canada shows people sleeping outside face increased risk of hypothermia, frostbite, and death. We know this, and those dangers aren't limited to the coldest nights. And if this El Nino produces a warmer, wetter, and more volatile winter, the challenge becomes more than surviving the cold. It becomes surviving the weather between the cold. For Canada's unhoused population, the real question this winter may not be how severe the El Nino becomes, but whether our shelter systems are prepared for whatever comes with it. This is Truth from the Booth. I'm Matthew. Thanks for making space for me and Shane Reid today. Let's get you back to the music on Canada's number one folk station, 99.9 FM Perth Andover, and folkdupradio.com.